Yeah, what up, yo? This is Branch, Dean of the Cool Zone at Avenue Cool Music. Thanks so much for joining me here in the Cool Zone. I really appreciate you being here, and I'm trusting that all is well with you and yours. Now, as we prepare to honor the career of the Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin, during our 80s R&B Queens tribute, I wanted to begin by discussing or talking about the bassist behind these two amazing Grammy Award-winning bass lines contained in the songs that I'm going to be playing from Aretha Franklin's music catalog. Now, speaking of Grammys, I learned during my preparations for this presentation that during her amazing career, Aretha Franklin won 18 Grammys. 18. 18 Grammys. And in 1987, Aretha Franklin became the first woman to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. An amazing career, regardless of the industry. When you win an award, the top award in your industry, it speaks volumes concerning the contribution that you've made to that industry. And that's what we're talking about here with excellence, the excellence of the Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin. Now, a career with those kind of credentials requires a deeper dive into the career. But because this is the 80s R&B Queens tribute and we have 8 more queens that we have to honor here, we won't be able to take the time to go deeper into Aretha Franklin's career. But what an amazing career. The 18 Grammy win, the 18 Grammys speaks volumes in and of itself. Now, before I talk about the bassist, as some of you may know, I do play saxophone. I began playing saxophone in the year 2020. So I do play saxophone, and I have an ear for saxophone now as well as bass. The saxophone may be becoming my second voice on instrument or third voice or whatever. But I want to talk about the first song that I'm going to be playing from Aretha Franklin's catalog. There's a smoking hot saxophone solo on that song. And the man behind that saxophone solo, his name is Clarence Clemons, tenor saxophonist, Clarence Clemons. Now, Clarence Clemons is probably best known from the 80s as a member of Bruce Springsteen's E Street Band. Now, he also has some extensive work in studio sessions with many artists during the 80s and the 90s, and he also launched a very successful solo career. Clarence Clemons. I'm sure a lot of you have heard that name before, and you've definitely heard his music. Now, to get to the bassist behind these 2 Grammy Award-winning songs that I'm going to be playing, I think, 8 words? You recognize this guy by 8 words. That's going to be a no for me, dog. That's right. I'm talking about American Idol panelist Randy Jackson, okay? This is Bass Player Magazine, right? Back in the 90s, we bassists, there were 2 magazines that we subscribed to. Bass Player Magazine was one of them, and the other one was Bass Guitar Magazine. And anytime you see a bassist on the cover of one of these magazines, they're not in circulation anymore. After the internet came along, these magazines, they kind of went out of business. Or they may be even digital now, I don't know. But when you see a guy on the cover of one of these magazines, Bass Guitar or Bass Player Magazine, you know that guy is a giant in the industry. Randy Jackson, reading this article, I understand why he was selected as a panelist for American Idol. This dude was a giant in the industry. I'm going to read a few excerpts from the article here written on behalf of, with the interview that was conducted with Randy Jackson. Playing bass is my core, says Randy Jackson. Housebroken as a pup by Chuck Rainey, so he studied with Chuck Rainey, groomed among the greats of the 70s fusion, unleashed as a first-call session bassist on loads of 80s and 90s radio hits, Road Dogg with Journey, and Mariah Carey. Now, in terms of first-call session bassist, I'm going to read off some of the names of the people that he worked in studio with in producing or recording on their albums. Check this out. Boyz II Men, Jean-Luc Ponty, Journey, Aretha Franklin, Mariah Carey, Whitney Houston, Billy Cobham, Sam Moore, Stacey Lattisaw, Michael Norado Walden, Bruce Springsteen, Bon Jovi, Frankie Beverly and Mays, Madonna, Bob Dylan, Herbie Hancock, Elton John, Billy Joel. I'm going to stop right there. NSYNC, Yeah, those are some of the artists that Randy Jackson worked in studio sessions with during his career. And he goes on to say, well, I want to talk about Randy Jackson's debut CD. I'm just going to read a little from here concerning his debut CD. Randy Jackson released a debut CD. I apologize, I didn't do enough research to determine what year it was released in, but you can Google that and determine that, or find that out for yourself. It says here, now we have Randy Jackson's Music Club Volume 1, his solo debut. The album is filled with first-rate songs expressed by a dazzling array of artists from across the board. So it has Paula Abdul is on it, Sam Moore is on it, Keb Mo, Angie Stone, Travis Tritt, Lucy Woodward, Richie Sambora. These are some of the artists that are on Randy Jackson's debut CD. And it goes on to, the interviewer asks, what was the concept for your CD, for your debut CD? The model is Quincy Jones, said Randy Jackson. I've always loved his albums, The Dude and Back on the Block, and all the styles and artists he would feature and introduce. So he was heavily influenced by Quincy Jones's music. And he goes on to mention Stevie Wonder's Songs in the Key of Life, how that album and Stevie Wonder's music influenced him. And he goes on to reference or mention Jaco Pastorius and his work with Weather Report. Jaco Pastorius, the bassist, and his work with Weather Report. And he specifically mentions the song A Remark You Made. That is a beautiful song. I love that song. It goes on. I'm not going to read much more here. You can probably find this article online somewhere. I just wanted to give you an idea of the work of Randy Jackson. It goes on to say he became the president of A&R for Columbia Records, and then the senior vice president of A&R Records for MCA Records. And then in 2002, he went on to become a panelist on American Idol. So that's your bassist for the two Grammy Award-winning songs that I'm going to be playing for the Aretha Franklin tribute. So, hey, look, I hope you enjoyed this session. I'm going to conclude by asking you to visit me at Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, and whatever music streaming service that you listen to your music on, and follow me at those music streaming platforms and give my music a spin. Help me to get some exposure to my original music. I would greatly appreciate it. All right, so until next time, be blessed.